Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 78, the podcast about our lives and love of pop culture. I'm your host, VyseTheBold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
PyroJackFrost, actually here. OldManStompy.
Minty Mitz.
Luminaire.
Mr. Ryu.
And this is our MAGFest 2018 special here.
Especial.
Oh my god.
Preserve for Latino.
We should make this a yearly thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like we do it like... Every year.
Isn't this the second one?
My greatest regret about this particular podcast is that we can't talk about another new Neil Breen movie that's come out.
I thought you were going to say it's because I'm here.
I don't want to watch
Oh, sorry,
Neil
but also
Breen
because
movie,
Luminaire's here.
please.
Yeah. I guess we'll just have to talk about Pass Through again.
I did see the Disaster Artist finally.
Oh, nice.
The movie?
The actual
Was it good?
movie.
That's supposed to be funny.
My girlfriend and I actually watched it, and she was all about it. Like, people were into it in the theater too. So it wasn't quite as, you know. It was people watching an actual movie. It wasn't like the festival atmosphere of a screening of The Room. But
I'm curious how many people who were there actually understand the movie that it's talking about.
That's the thing, because for Best Worst Movie, you should have watched Troll 2, but you don't really have to have. But from what I've heard, The Disaster Artist is really, like, you really should know The Room.
But why wouldn't you want to see those anyway?
In case you're just like, oh, it's
Not
a movie.
everyone is into stupid fucking humor like we are.
I know, but no, but it is really like fairly popular enough. So I mean,
Yeah.
We had a good time though. I mean, it was a blast. It was better that she had seen it, obviously,
Yeah.
and I don't know. One of the funniest moments is actually one of the funniest moments from the book is like is Greg having a fight with Tommy, like while Tommy's completely naked, and they're just like walking around and like it's just James Franco's ass.
That's like that scene from that scene from Borat where they're just fighting across the hotel. It's like, what is this?
He's walking around and he's like just having a serious argument, but the punchline is that he's just constantly barraging you with his ass.
Actually, my sister took my parents to the movie, and they had never heard of The Room or Tommy Wiseau.
Oh no!
But that,
no.
but
They
she,
like
but
it?
no, yes, because he's such a unassumingly, some bizarrely charming person.
Yeah.
in his and now even they're going around. You're tearing me apart.
Of course. In a few minutes, bitch.
Oh, and when they go to the I noticed this. It was a little Easter egg. When they go to the apartment complex in L.A., you know, he said, "Oh, I have this apartment, you know, that I never use in L.A." Like, why are you paying rent in L.A. like for no good fucking reason?
Yeah.
But
Yes,
the name of the building is OJAI, Ohio.
If you choose to pronounce it that way.
You know what also would have been kind of funny if the Disaster Artist movie like green screened the apartment.
Yeah. So, you know, that was a great time, and I like bringing that up here on the podcast because our group of friends like loves that movie, and we're all about that movie. So, like, going to see that with my girlfriend it was just a really fun thing to like help get her into the spirit of the group. So
They have to do
of us being shitty.
yeah, she hasn't seen any Rudy Ray Moore movies yet.
Wait, it's
but...
more or less what was that movie with Johnny Depp and they were doing like Plan 9 from Outer Space?
Oh yeah,
Ed Wood. Yeah,
It's
so
basically
it was
like
in the same vein.
The
of
new
that.
Ed Wood, yeah.
Which
We're gonna make this movie and it'll be my magnum opus, and it's crap.
Yep. The next one has to be Birdemic.
Ooh,
But my favorite part of that is when Bela Lugosi's like, "Let's shoot this fucker." This is great.
Well, one clip I really enjoyed was when they're just trying to film on the street, and then they're like, "It's the cops. We don't have a permit. Run!" Just straight up like run away. It's like what?
But concerning group activities, I did want to bring up at least our big group activity for the event here. We did Secret Santa like we do every year at MAGFest, and this year Perry had me, and I got...
Perry took you.
Yeah, he took me.
took
me like...
By random force.
Took me and brought me knowledge.
in manually.
Yes.
Brought me in manually. But he got me some really great gin. A couple of us had a couple tries at it. I know Luminaire, you had a little bit of it, and it was called Monkey 47 gin. It was really good, and he is a big liquor nerd like I am, so I'm glad that he
for quite a few years now.
Yeah. I'm really glad he got me one of his favorites. It's kind of obscure, but I really enjoyed it. It was pretty good on its own. Most gins are awful on their own.
Well, you've all seen the Super Bowl Monkey 47 commercials, right? You know, like the Budweiser frogs. They're at the same level.
Oh, jeez, yeah, that takes me back.
He also got me one of Jeremy Parish's books, Anatomy of Castlevania, which is like the first three games, and it's like it's kind of like Nintendo Power style. He placed all of the screenshots next to each other.
love that.
That's really cool, yeah.
Really neat
Like
stuff.
the Metroid map from the issue 1.
If I'm not mistaken, they literally just have a giant book, which is just NES game atlases from
Oh,
Nintendo Power, which
that's
is just
awesome.
like I think it's like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games, the Castlevania
That's
games, Mega
awesome.
Man, and Mario, just the atlases with all the like points of interest.
That's great.
The real Atlas can't hold up that many Nintendo maps.
Yeah.
Well, I know that there is a company online that sells them as posters too. So like you can get like Legacy of the Wizard or Zelda or
Sure.
Final Fantasy.
I've never heard of any of those.
Final Fantasy.
Final
you
Fantasy.
never- Oh, I meant FF1.
Oh, FF. I know FF.
It's 13 before Final Fantasy 14.
What's Final Fantasy 14?
It's the only one we know. As far as we know, recently you've never played Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, pretty.
Even though you told us that you would help me level through, but guess what now? I'm
Real life got in the way.
Hey, you're the one equipping your best gear on your NPC slave.
He thought he was playing RPG Simulator.
RPG Simulator.
And I also got Mystery Play, which is a Grant Morrison graphic novel. He and I have been bonding over Grant Morrison stuff. He's been reading Doom Patrol, and he's going to go into Invisibles after that. So I'm glad to have some camaraderie on that.
Is Doom Patrol the sequel to Snow Patrol?
Snow Patrol would be the sequel to Doom Patrol if that were the case.
I think this is a joke.
Isn't Doom Patrol the
Like in the
precursor to
80s.
Quake Patrol and Duke Nukem 3D Patrol?
Say that.
No, it's the sequel to Wolfenstein 3D Patrol and Castle Wolfenstein.
Yeah, Castle Wolfenstein Patrol.
So what order do you want to do the Secret Santa recipients?
Go right ahead. You could go next.
Alright, so my buddy Vice right here got me.
Aw.
It's just the thing is that I know which amiibos they are. I know the race, the Goron, and the... Wow. It's just that...
Gerudo?
Gerudo, yeah. It's just that I haven't played that game since, like, the first 2 months it came out. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, by the way. Amazing game that I already put, like, at about 150 hours into and haven't beaten because it's one of those where, like, all the side stuff is more interesting than the actual plot itself, more or less. But it got me 2 of the amiibos for it, which unlocks some exclusive gear and costumes for it. And what was the PS4 game again?
I got you Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm not familiar with, but if he got it for me, he must know I like it.
Yeah, it's a Falcom game, so it's the people who made E.
So
Isn't
this
If
is
Vice
where
recommends a game, then it must be great.
This is where we put
that right, OldManStompy?
I'm sure he's played
It's
the
the 4 Heroes of Light EX Plus for PS4.
I'm sure he's played the entire game. Has an extremely thorough, vetted opinion on all of them.
I have not played it, but most Falcon games are great.
Hey,
So.
he knows the taste in mine like I do in his, which is why I got him that Game Boy Japanese equestrian racing game.
Oh, yeah, that.
I do not know what it was
You
called.
also got me a fake Mega Man game too. The fake Mega Man game had like really weird music,
Fake
or
Man.
even I
Yeah.
don't remember that giving
Yeah, I
him
don't
that. But
and also a Hello Kitty game that was like. You got me like 3 things. You
I
got
saw
me
you-
like a bootleg.
If
I
I
saw
see
you playing
s-
that, and I thought that you legitimately picked that up because it was some hidden gem.
Oh well, there is a hidden gem Hello Kitty game for the Famicom that is basically a reskin Balloon Kid, which is the sequel to Balloon Fight.
if I see
It's called
something,
Hello
And
Kitty
then the
World.
sequel to that is Balloon Adult.
Yeah.
if I see something that I know one of my friends would like, I kind of have to get it. Like I got Mr. Ryu when I was also in Japan. That hentai crossover of like.
Can't even wait.
Fist of the North Star and
No, that was
Fisting of the North Star.
Fisting of the. Thank you
Fisting
for
of the North
correcting me
Star.
there.
not all dojins are hentai. Actually, that's one of the like joke like dojins. Like
Joke. Okay, it had plastic. I obviously didn't open and read it.
okay, so it's a crossover between Azumanga Daioh and Hokuto no Ken.
Oh,
What?
wow.
Yeah,
And how was
And
it?
it's a hentai.
Not
No,
a
it's
hentai.
that group actually constantly goes to like Comiket, which is like Japan's like comic market. They do like all these like cute girl animes and just put Hokuto characters in them. They're all
Nice.
stupid.
That's fantastic.
They're just really dumb.
They're really dumb, but they're really funny.
And I'm just like, have to get. Doesn't matter. And there was one other thing, right?
I got you the Stranger Things gachapon.
Yeah,
right, yeah.
Good.
Nancy and Mike, I believe.
Yep. And if you haven't watched it yet, it's on Netflix. Go watch it.
We're not getting paid for advertising.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a good show.
Don't watch on Notflex.
Yes.
Not flex.
Not flex.
Not flex.
All right, I'm good.
All right,
Next
Minty-
person.
Minty Mitz.
So actually, if we're going in Secret Santa order, just to do the
Oh,
Secret Santa.
okay.
Well, so far we have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I received Secret Santa presents from Luminaire. I got
Okay.
Telestrations After Dark, which we're probably going to play after dark today.
It already is after dark.
Well, my
It's
statement
just
is
about
not
that.
untrue. Unless we wait until it becomes light again to play.
Maybe not.
Are you afraid of the after dark?
And he also got me Tales of Berseria. I'm a huge Tales fan, and they're tremendous time sinks, but I do tend to like to try to find a block of time to get through
The
them.
real name is miles per hour.
No,
Oh,
Miles
Tales.
per hour of Berseria.
Doesn't have the same ring to it.
Yeah, Miles quote Tales.
God, I love nipple stand
And another small game that I forgot to bring again. God
Yeah,
damn it.
and something that it keeps forgetting to give me that I'm sure will be amazing. But
It's like the size of a pack of gum. It's easy to lose.
as can be observed by the fact that he's tried to give it to me like 3 times.
Yes.
And so I actually, as a Secret Santa recipient, I had Andrew Vice's girlfriend, who is not here right now. So I'll
Yes.
just say we got them a bunch of stuff for the kitchen.
Yeah.
An avocado slicer, a label maker, an egg timer.
Very practical.
Yeah, a lot of really practical stuff. Since
and
Vice
stuff
is
we're gonna use.
Very
Yeah.
happy that he's starting his life together. So we are giving him housewarming presents.
Less nerd oriented.
Yeah, we've done a lot of couples things together. So like, I'm really glad that you got her because like it just means something to her to like have a close friend in the group. So you guys getting her is a good thing, and we need that stuff. So we were very glad.
Don't after I got married, the first like Christmas after that, all I got was gift cards, and I was so disappointed I wasn't getting video games. But the next time, once I actually started having to shop to fill an apartment, I was like, oh my god, when is the next holiday?
Oh, a Target gift card.
A Target gift card. This is exactly what I wanted.
You are
I needed a doormat.
Disney
Jesus.
receives.
I did not stereotype anything.
So who did
I believe
Jen have?
Mr. Ryu.
Okay.
Actually,
Oh, Mr. Ryu.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Jen was nice enough to actually just give me nothing but Miku's.
How did she know?
She was very good. She didn't even ask me. She was just like, I'm getting a Miku.
She knows me.
And he's like, marry her.
Please. She's such a good girlfriend.
He's going to hack next year's Secret Santa for more.
Yeah.
I want
She
more.
got a whole bunch of Miku stuff that
Actually,
Mr. Ryu does not own.
Which is actually
Which is
impressive.
surprising.
Sounds like an oxymoron.
It's
Yeah.
And
hilarious. because
I managed to do that too.
That you
The-
like.
Oh
the
yeah,
regular-
and she got me a Hatsune Miku calendar, and I am happy about that. And she got me like this nifty like coffee mug or coffee holder or cup. That's
oh
like
yeah, that was my favorite one.
Thermos.
yeah, it's just like Hatsune Miku like
Oh, the Starbucks thing?
yeah, it's like the Starbucks logo but with Hatsune Miku. It's just Hatsune Miku coffee.
That was
I'm
fantastic.
Gonna use that a lot.
You got me immunity
Nice.
STDs.
And she got me a Bandai Tamashii Friends Chibi Miku figure, which is very
Did you just have a stroke?
yes.
muffins.
I think did I just say that? Scat man.
But yeah, whole bunch
She
of
No,
specifically
I
ordered
understand.
that. She typed that in.
I actually understood. What
I
you said.
forgot what I
Yeah.
was saying.
Like Vice has
The last
no,
thing
Vice
she
has
got
no
here,
idea
the
what
other
Mr. Ryu
figure.
just said.
Oh, yeah,
but
the
obviously,
comic-
Jen managed to purchase exactly what that item was.
Yeah.
Some of us are better listeners than others.
Yeah. So anyway, for Perry, what'd you get?
Okay, so for Perry, I was actually looking at his Amazon wish list, and I was like, oh, he like wants a bunch of books. And I saw something that I was like, oh my god, why is this on his list? Like, he thinks I'm not gonna get this for him. I will get this for him. And on his wish list was a cardboard cutout of Guy Fieri. From,
Yeah, Perry had said that he had it on his wish list as a way to remind himself of something to get
it for
other
someone
people.
else, yeah.
But Mr. E was like, nope, I'm getting it for you.
Why would you put that on your wish list
I don't
if
know.
you don't expect people to get it?
Yeah, an Amazon wish list of things to get other people and things I might also want.
Like,
yeah,
what?
pretty much.
With no distinction whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, of course I'm gonna get it for him. It's just like, but unfortunately, it didn't arrive on time. And the
made
other
up for
gift
it.
the other gift I gave him was a really stupid T-shirt that I actually found from the Facebook page bootleg stuff. Like, there's a link with these intentionally slightly wrong T-shirts, and I know that Perry is a big James Bond fan, so there's this James Bond shirt that has James Bond on it, and the quote is, "The name is James Bond." And instead of
Agent 700.
instead of 007, it's like Agent 700. It's
The
like,
only thing it's missing is that it was like the actor is Con Connery.
It's clever because you read it once and your brain doesn't immediately process it.
Your brain corrects it. That's what happened when Perry
You
read it.
both
So he
had
was
this-
like, "Oh, cool, Bond shirt." Like, look.
look at it.
Read again.
Look at it. And then it was like, oh! That site that was linked there, like, it has some pretty funny shirts. Like, there's a RoboCop one
That's my
that
favorite
really
one.
got me.
Robot cop.
It's like Robot Cop.
Officer.
Part man, part machine, part cop.
I love
really
that
got
one.
me.
That's my favorite one.
Wait, there's too many parts.
Yeah.
There's too many
In
hats.
space, they can hear you scream.
No, actually, no.
So
The alien is in space. No one can hear you scream in space.
No. The shirt was, instead of alien, it was Alan.
Yeah, ALAN.
In space, no one can hear you in space.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yes.
I saw a shirt today at or just walking around the con that just said, "Surely not everyone was kung fu fighting."
Don't call me Shirley.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So
If
Perry
it was,
Perry-
what's his face, Nelson or Leslie Nielsen on the pic,
Yeah.
saying
don't
that.
call me Shirley.
Yeah.
Yeah, then that would
So
be
yeah,
good.
Perry's not here, but who did he get?
Me. We already talked
Oh,
about
you're,
it.
oh yeah, you
There's a
opened
full
with that.
circle.
So we looped.
Yeah.
All right, so
We
Perry,
looped.
you want to go next, I guess?
Yeah, Minty
Yeah,
Mitz
Perry.
has me.
Oh,
What do you
maybe
got?
Mitz
He
didn't
said
go over
Pyro.
there,
I,
I'm
okay.
right here.
yeah. Sorry, Minty
I
Mitz
got.
is-
I don't know. I got PyroJackFrost. A play mat, but it was like custom made. He said he wanted an Ashes mat, and I had to look it up because I didn't know. I didn't play that game, but I would like to as one day. And
If only there was some giant convention where you could just play all the board
I
games.
know, right? But I actually didn't see that game.
I have to try to get
So-
stuff beforehand.
Unfortunately, I didn't see that game at the convention, so I actually had to look it up. And someone had actually, I guess other hardcore fans of the game also wanted an actual playmat with the high quality image of the original artwork of the box, and also some card guides that were slightly invisible, but you could still slightly see where you should place all the cards. So I decided to order something like that for him, along with the additional expansions
An IOU for the additional
an
expansions.
IOU in a very, very tiny box to make sure he doesn't buy those 2 copies of the,
Because it happened last year.
oh gosh, the Boy Monk's Wolf and the Goddess of Ishtar or something like
Something
that.
like that, yeah.
Ishara. And chapstick because it was really cold outside.
Yeah.
Yes.
Candy.
And I had Lotus Prince, and I have to say that
You got my
I
attitude
do-
down perfectly.
I do know him well.
He's just like
but I
Neil
wanted to
Breen.
get something that he wanted. But then I took one look at his wish list, and I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
You like this
Everything
weird
on there
esoteric stuff.
was either over $100, was not in print anymore,
Yeah.
or was gonna ship from
Copies.
Japan.
Yeah,
It'd be
I think
4
I had the
weeks.
Doom board game expansion.
That's
if
why it's
everyone
a
was
wish
opening
list, and that you need
So
a genie
I asked,
to
so
get
I
it.
asked for help from the rest of the group, and this was actually OldManStompy's, mainly OldManStompy's idea, because Lotus Prince loves plane stuff. So I got him a plane, from Magic the Gathering,
it. The plains land.
Get
and I got
it?
him.
I
It's a
control
full,
the planes.
It's a full
Yeah.
body card.
full
Yeah, it's
Full
from
body.
Zendikar, so it's a full art full art card. I also got him just a gift card. I'm like, get it your goddamn self.
Yeah.
And then finally a side of barbecue sauce because
Yeah, literally, he got me
orders
one of
that
those
with
little
everything.
things of barbecue sauce on the side. Yeah, if I ever order like a hamburger, or not a hamburger, but if I order like chicken tenders or something, it's like barbecue sauce on the side.
The order as a gift was important. So
Yes,
the box.
so the order was important. I didn't want to mess it up, so I had on every single, all 6 sides of the box was directions. So this side down, this side up.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing.
This side, this other
There's
side.
another side. Yeah.
And then
pretty good.
I don't know what I'm doing. No, more writing here, and then I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
More writing here.
I kind of
That's
wanted
pretty
the
great.
bottom to say like you fucked up.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Actually, didn't you fuck up?
He was about to, he ripped the tape off the whole box, so he had to hold the bottom shut so it didn't fall out of the bottom.
Yeah.
I handed him a knife, and he's like, "No, I got this." All right, man. Shine on, you crazy diamond.
Pyro anticipated this, and he wrapped the barbecue sauce in like several layers of saran wrap so that it wouldn't have fallen out.
Yes.
Like,
Actually,
love
when
how
I was
you
wrapping
were all
it,
freaking idiot.
when I was wrapping it, I asked my girlfriend, like, "Do you think this is secure enough?" She's like, "Just don't make sure you don't shake the box." And Justin was like moving the box all the way.
I didn't know there was fucking liquid in it. But anyway, so finally I got Minty Mitz, and I got her like, it was kind of like for coffee, this kettle style thing where you kind of are able to hold it and tip it over and drip water. Like
coffee specialty. It was like a special kettle, so when you pour the water, it kind of holds back the pressure of the water and not over pour the water.
So
It's
it's,
for, like,
it's meant for
pour
pour
over
over coffee.
Yes.
So that you see them when you go to like coffee shops that when they use
Fancy,
The fancy coffee
Yeah.
shops.
So we're trying to learn how to make pour over coffee. It's much cheaper and energy efficient compared to
Yes,
making coffee
because
from a machine.
I noticed that in the house, that if you decide to use the coffee maker, kind of the lights kind of blink out a little bit. Well, not blink out, like the lights kind of fade. So I'm assuming that the coffee machine.
Jeez, what are you using?
It's actually
It's
in
a
our house.
DeLorean like coffee machine.
Oh, okay.
in our house-
That's the washing machine.
Sir, you have-
Cocoa pebbles
That's his
over coffee meats.
Oh, that's a different.
In our house, if you use the electric kettle and the microwave at the same time, the circuit breaker flips. So we have to go down to the basement and flip it back.
Boiling water
That's-
takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
In a short period of time.
Sure.
So like those kinds of appliances.
Because water doesn't want to boil.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Fucking water.
And so anyway, the other thing I got was like a little table that sort of folds out. It's designed to be compact. You could put it over your legs or something and do like breakfast in bed if you wanted to. If you had breakfast come
In
to
bed.
you, yeah, in bed.
Yeah.
If you
I
wanted
feel
to
like
eat
this is
breakfast in
gonna
bed.
create a lot of work.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, OldManStompy has
Okay.
to create some breakfast to go with this.
Yeah,
I'll just like call it Final Fantasy 14 in bed.
that is true. Yeah.
Since
Very accurate.
You could do
Yeah,
that.
man,
it
I'll
plays
get
on a laptop, that is quite likely to be the.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
That
And then
gaming
her
laptop
legs
actually
won't
generate a lot
burn
of heat.
and catch on fire.
that's true. Yeah.
So that was
Wait.
our big what?
I forgot to tell what I did with like Perry's box.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so what I did is
First of all, what it was wrapped in.
okay. First off, I do this every secret Secret Santa.
I think it's more because you bought the roll of wrapping paper. Now you need to use all of it.
yeah, pretty much, pretty much.
And someone's like,
It's
you
just
still
like-
have it? I'm like, what do you mean? You think he used
You
it
think
up?
I use this? So I just have like Justin Bieber wrapping paper sitting around like
For years.
for years in my basement.
And it's
'cause,
like
It was
it's like
young
15-year-old
Justin
Justin Bieber. It's not even
Yeah.
like current Justin
Yeah,
Bieber
and it's
by,
just
by
like-
any chance.
It's pre-time skip.
It's like
Bieber.
pre-Shippuden.
Yeah.
okay,
We're on
crazy.
Boruto now,
Oh my!
apparently.
So it's just sitting in my basement because like, why am I? What else would I use this for? So I wrapped one of my Hatsune Miku like figure boxes that I was about to throw out, and I just like
You were gonna throw out the box. That's a collectible.
surprise
Well,
me.
he
It's
kept the
cheap.
he kept the box after the present was opened.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah,
That's
you're
okay,
right.
the box is empty.
It was.
Yeah.
It was great. The box was
So,
empty.
I just like got random crap that's like garbage I didn't throw out. It's just like some plastic like bubble thing from like some game controller I bought. I didn't throw out. I just put it in there.
Styrofoam chunks.
It's some styrofoam chunks. And then like, I just put 2 pieces of paper in it. Like one of them is just a drawing of a dick. It says "eat a dick," and the other one is like,
Spelled
"Oh wait,
D-I-K.
yes,
D-I-K.
dick, dick, dick."
This sounds like a horrible gift, but we expect nothing less.
So wait,
Yeah.
the important thing is that when Perry actually opened it, he described it with the proudness of a parent describing his child's
He was
artwork
like,
in kindergarten.
"Aw."
He's like, look, he drew the dick, and look, here's the hair. Look, here's the hair on the ball.
No, he specifically criticized that there was no hair on the balls.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Son,
He's
I am
like, this
disappointed.
guy shaved. No.
Son, I am disappointed.
But yeah, like the thing is, Mr. Ryu's gifts hadn't actually arrived in the mail yet, so he's like, "Here, I got something for you. It's just a box of nothing
Guy Fieri
except
was
for
late.
insults." Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one was just like, "Oh wait, hold on, you don't deserve a Miku figure. You like Cowboy Bebop. This figure is made for cultured people,
Yeah.
by cultured people." And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Anymore.
So that was a very successful Secret Santa.
Yeah, it was a good one. Definitely one for the gauges.
One for
One for the
The
gauges.
gauges. The
Yeah.
gauges. The gauges.
Freud was right. I'm gay.
Freud
Um,
Levin. Freud Levin.
Yeah, Floyd Lavin. But anyway, I did want to also bring up that I got a birthday gift from Mr. Ryu. Resident Evil. What's the subtitle?
Oh yeah, Vendetta. The movie.
Vendetta.
We had described this on a podcast before, I think.
Yeah, we talked about this.
So like Mr. Ryu had gotten both of the videos at the same time for me and for Vice, but Vice is an hour away, and he just like didn't get the opportunity to see Vice for a while. So yesterday was the day.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Vice now gets that like hilarious, unintentionally hilarious movie to watch.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, I'm
you
looking
will
forward to it.
enjoy that movie. Like,
my girlfriend was like, "Oh, I kind of wanted to see some of the Resident Evil movies," and you're like, "No,
No.
you don't want to watch this one."
I don't know, she might enjoy the cheesiness.
the live action ones. The CG ones are at least competent.
This CG one though is
Like this one's still fun to watch. It's just like unintentionally stupid.
Listen to the desperation.
This
in the
is
voice.
my favorite crappy video game movie.
It's up there. It is actually up there.
You should
Better
watch the
than
King of
Armageddon?
Fighters one.
Oh, actually,
it's
no,
really
that
bad.
that looks terrible.
Oh,
Like,
wait,
cringe
okay,
bad.
Better than
Oh.
Armageddon.
There's a
Annihilation,
scene.
you mean, right?
There's a scene
Yes.
where
Can you tell
they're the main characters are all talking like in the snow and like in a wintry area, and then there's a there's a pond in the background that's frozen over, and the character walks away and slips on the ice in the background, and they didn't cut it out.
What was this from?
King
The
of
King of
Fighters
Fighters
movie.
like live action
Oh,
like
you
American
actually
movie.
watched that?
Oh yes.
Watch! I kind of
That-
want to watch
that-
it now.
That's
Bust a Wolf.
the
Pratfall.
one good thing about that movie is the part where someone's in the hospital and Terry texts her, "Are you okay?" It's like, yeah.
Buster. Well, if he doesn't say that, then you know he's not.
No, it's just "Are you okay?" which is good enough.
But I did want to say a couple of the things that I got from the con here, other than a bad case of depression. But I did get a couple T-shirts here. I got a Galaga one and a Cuphead one from the Yeti, which makes some really awesome vinyls.
Oh, the Yeti.
Yeah, the Yeti. And I got those two, and they were really good looking. So I can't wait to wear those. And I'm a big Galaga fan from way back, and of course I love Cuphead. But I was also able to get a Famicom joystick, and Mr. Ryu was able to check that out a little bit.
Oh yeah, that was a really good stick. It felt like an actual like Sanwa stick, and like you can like adjust it too. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive, but arcade joysticks are pretty difficult to find for older systems that are in any amount of quality, because most of them back then just were kind of novelties. They weren't made to be good.
Yeah, like the NES stick that like
NES Advantage.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That's not very.
It's
good
not
stick.
good.
It's not very good.
In
But it
fact,
powered the Statue of Liberty.
in fact, the buttons, like even when they were new, the buttons kind of stuck.
Oh, really?
So like it kind of like I guess if you turn on turbo, it's good, but like it's not a good stick in
Should turn
general.
turbo.
So this one was neat. I might even talk about that a little bit later. I also got to do a lot of fun things with my girlfriend. She actually, for somebody who isn't into this stuff, has been a big trooper. About
good sport.
everything. A good sport about everything. Yeah, she's been really good about everything, having a good time. She played a bunch of pinball, and we played Jenga for a bit, and Just had a good time. We went to a couple concerts. One by somebody named Slubzilla, which was she was really funny. So she had a rap song about wanting to have babies. It was actually really funny. It was like about mundane everyday life
What would
kind
you
of stuff.
say? What would you say she is passionate about?
My girlfriend?
Yeah.
Oh, she's very passionate about a lot of things. She has a lot of hobbies. Like she loves pets. She's a big dog person.
Pets with a Z.
Yeah. Like hamsters. No. She's a big dog person. She has a dog and she wants a dog. She's a pharmacist. Loves helping people. Loves her friends. Loves going out to eat. That's something that we like to do. We like to go to a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, I'm hungry right now. Can we go out to eat right now?
She likes a good drink. She loves that I make her drinks.
I love it too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we bond over in particular is a lot of the stuff that you would do on a normal basis. Like she also loves movies a lot. So she loves good movies.
What are those?
Explain good.
Like we've seen like a lot of movies in the theater together, and pretty much all of them we loved. I mean, we saw Split with James McAvoy, and we saw Spider-Man: Homecoming, Thor: Ragnarok,
Would she like
Guardians of
Deadpool?
the Galaxy 2. She loved Deadpool. She saw it on her own.
Awesome.
When it came out, she really wanted to watch it. One of her favorite movies is Fury Road, Mad Max Fury Road. So I mean, she loves movies. And she's also really into feminism and feminist culture. So she's really into Ruth Bader Ginsburg stuff, and then reading a lot of books by feminist authors and stuff like that. So,
Just a quick addendum to Pyro's throwaway line about pets. I was actually wandering
Need to
around
come
the
back to
computer
that.
museum that they have at MAGFest, which is just an archive of old like PC architecture PCs,
Yeah.
like Macs.
neat.
And one of the old Macintoshes, it had a big sign on it that said, "Yes, this Mac has cats with a Z."
I remember that from back in the day. Dogs and cats.
Oh
So
yeah.
like so apparently that's worth advertising here at MAGFest.
Yeah, I guess.
So, did anybody else want to mention what they did here?
Yeah, I'll go, because I might have to head out in like a half hour.
Get the fuck outta here.
Just go now.
Yeah, man.
Why pretend? Anyway, go.
So first, I'll go over some things that I bought. So first, I bought this comic called Blam. It's actually spelled Blame. It's actually for anyone who's watched Knights of Sidonia on Netflix. It's by the same. It's by the same artist. But it's really interesting because this comic has basically no dialogue. It's just scenes that tell a story of a guy who's in post-apocalyptic world. It's really hard to explain, but they actually have an OVA for it on Netflix as well. But yes, we are in a room at MAGFest, so random noises.
People rave.
For 2 seconds.
But yeah, it's really cool. So they and I want to read it before that. I had a friend who introduced me to it last year, so I bought Volume 1 last year. Something, I guess, every year I'll buy one. So I guess 10 years from now, I'll be able to finally watch the OVA on Netflix. I also bought this card game. It's the Arkham Horror card game. Yes. So a few of my friends have Arkham Horror games, and I kind of wanted one of my own. And
Jesus.
and this is a card game where it's like a living card game. So you have your decks of your investigator decks, and you have the scenario decks. And you're all working cooperatively to beat the game. So it's pretty cool.
I like co-op games like that.
Yeah. I've been wanting to play that.
What's
game
really
for
annoying
years.
about it, though, is the core game itself is 1 to 2 players. You need to buy a second core game, the same a
Like
duplicate
Pokemon
core
Red and
game
Blue.
for 3 to 4 players because of the number of cards. So a play set of a card is 2 of a card, and only 1 of each card comes in the core set, basically. So you need to buy 2 to have the cards you need for 4 people.
I don't know if you've heard about this, but Harmonix just came out with
Yes,
a...
my one of my friends has it, and I've been asking him to try it sometime.
Yeah, I want to check that out. Like, let me know if it's good, because I would be happy to
The
play
one
it.
it's like it's Hasbro and Harmonix is a game. It's called Drop Mix.
Okay.
So you can buy expansions.
Oh yeah, I've seen this.
And
at
there's
Target,
different
actually.
games. Yeah, there's different games you can play with it where it uses NFC chips and a board, and when you put them on it puts. So like I think there's 3 or 4 different cards you can put down. Like one for the, I'm not good with music, but for different parts of the song.
Right.
But so you can only replace that one part with another of the same kind of part. but you're basically making your own electronic music in a way.
We picked it up in the first place just because it was late at night and it looked like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel disc.
You borrowed it to make fun of it.
It was actually like a pretty interesting piece of technology we were playing around with.
Like B-movies.
Yeah, and I also bought a poster for Kill La Kill. I bought there's these things called fruitimals, which is like stuffed animals, different animals with fruits. And we collect those as well. Yeah, I got the orange fox because we have 3 of them elsewhere, and I think that's most of what I bought. But another really cool thing that I did this weekend was the Mech Warrior battle pods. So it's
that caught our eye when we were walking by those.
Yeah, so if you've ever played Mech Warrior, think of that, but you're in a pod and you have like a throttle stick on the left. You have a joystick that controls where you're looking, and you can press buttons like the
is it a multiplayer experience? Is that what it is?
So I think you sign up. There's up to like 12 or so people that can play at the same time, and there's also some computer players. But I think it's 12 people, and whoever's not playing his computer.
Oh, so it's similar to Steel Battalion.
It's a lot easier to control.
Yeah,
I was thinking about like that Gundam game where you're in the pod.
It's similar to any games like that. Yeah. And it's cool because it's because it's Mech Warrior, it's more clunky. Oh. So you're basically just walking, and you're really slow. But I would say check it out. We went at 6 a.m, so there's no one there because that's when it opens.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because
they had those booths at PAX too, so I'm glad you guys got a chance to play them, since I think Minty Mitz and I are the only ones from this group who went to PAX last year.
Yeah, I've been wanting to play something like that, but it's a shame I don't see them in arcades ever. And
no, because they run on like computers, so it's not like a thing that you can do. Like I think the Gundam ones, I mean, they still run obviously with computer chips, but I think they're more networked together. Whereas the battle pods for Mech Warrior need to be networked to a computer to get things set
like
up.
A LAN game.
Yeah, it's more like a LAN game. Yeah, but it was pretty fun. So we had the idea, and actually this worked out really well, this MAGFest, because it's a 4-day, 24/7 convention. We went to bed at like 11 o'clock and woke up at 3.
Wow.
Went to the arcade when no one was there.
Wow.
Nice.
We then went and played like a board game, went to the battle pods at 6 when they opened and no one was there. And then we went to have breakfast, which was basically our dinner before we went to bed. At like 7 and woke up again at 1.
You're gonna have like a hard time going back to work.
No, we found out that was good for the first day, and then like last night we went to bed at like normal-ish time, and are slowly getting ourselves. So we fucked up our sleeping schedule the first day, and are slowly getting it better. So when we get back to work on Monday, we're
totally fine with it.
And then another thing that my girlfriend and I went to do is it was a string quartet.
Oh, neat.
I forget what the name of it was, but they did a lot of like string renditions of songs. Like they did one from the Star Wars Battlefront games. They did one from Halo.
Did they charge you for it?
No, it was like a concert, like most of them.
But was it a random box to get?
Oh yeah.
EA Battlefront.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes. No, they didn't charge because this was not.
Did you have to listen
EA.
for 40 hours before you got anything out of it?
Did you get a sense of accomplishment when you listened to it?
Yeah, they had. And then what was really cool though is the last 2 songs are from Bastion. And if you don't, Bastion, makers of Supergiant Games, who made Pyre and Transistor. But also Darren Korb, who composed those songs, came up on stage to play the guitar during it as well. Nice. So it was actually really cool. And my girlfriend thought it sounded cool, so she went to go, and I'm like, I'll join you, why not? But then, and I was like, oh, this music's interesting. But then when he came on stage, I'm like, and I'm like tapping her on the shoulder, like,
yeah.
You went total fangirl.
We actually saw Super Guitar Brothers, and they played the entire Ocarina of Time soundtrack, which was
nice.
really neat. Yeah, they did it in kind of like a Spanish guitar. They did it in like a Spanish guitar style, which was really neat. Especially when they get to Gerudo Valley, which is actually supposed to be like
Valley
that.
is my favorite song, I think.
Yeah,
I love that one.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's the majority of what I did. I'm doing a bridge simulator later today, so
nice.
I did actually Starship Horizons. This is probably only interesting for people who actually got to MAGFest, but I did that the last couple years, and I was getting kind of bored of it. But this year we're doing Artemis, which is the other one, but also they have verses. So 12 of us signed up, and we're going to be teams of 6 and 6, and we're going to fight against each other. And Minty Mitz is going to be there too.
Neat.
So they've improved it a lot.
It's a different game.
Oh, different. Okay.
And I think they've always had verses with that, but this is my first time trying this one.
Okay.
Neat.
You should join just to see. Maybe there's more slots.
Oh, I'm very good at being really annoying.
Yeah.
Mr. Ryu is it's speculative when you're playing a cooperative and also an antagonistic game, which side he's actually on.
Plays by his own rules.
If you get annoyed, he will come at you.
Yeah, if you get annoyed, I win. It doesn't matter if I
That's
actually
true.
lose the game.
If he wins, we all lose.
Yep.
Yes, going into that topic, I've played I always have like played the cool games, like it's like one of those like rebellion games where
Which
you
games?
Cool.
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 Oh.
Like a chicken.
Coop.
It's where the chickens live.
Coop the grass.
Coupe de Gracie. Coupe de Etat.
So the idea behind coup is that you have these like roles that you can be, but you can take any action in the game, and players have to decide if you're taking the action that belongs to you or if you're lying. So it's a good game for people who like to take an action and then just dare other people to call you out in your bullshit, which Mr. Ryu is exceptionally good at.
Exceptionally good.
Yeah, I'm a giant piece of shit in that game.
You can never tell if he's lying or not lying, so you gotta have to take that chance.
Mm-hmm.
And you only have like
It's
2
like
life points.
Every action that he takes, even the most mundane actions that have no possibility of being bullshit, is this big shit-eating grin in his face at all times.
This was actually very helpful in the original Doom board game because like you actually like helped us because you had like double chainsaws.
Yeah, I was like, I want to rip and tear.
Chainsaw's pretty broken in board game though.
Yeah, no, that
So,
game is
like,
broken.
sometimes
in
the
general.
strategy works really well. Like I watched you play Dokapon Kingdom, where you played as like a mage who did nothing but max out your speed stat, and you just zoomed around the board and shot like magic spells at everybody, and nobody could actually hit you.
Yeah, and Dokapon Kingdom is the game where you get mad at your friends.
Yeah, it really is.
But like you have to really be willing to commit completely to like pissing your friends off, which Mr. Ryu does, and the rest of us are a little bit like
They're like, oh, they're my friends, and Daryl's like, oh, this is what I do.
they're
to
my friends.
friends.
They'll just come back for more.
I wouldn't do this to people I didn't like.
Yeah, why are you playing games with me, you fools?
Yeah, he somehow earned that reputation a decade ago or so, and now it's like, damn it, we expected of him. Now we'd be disappointed if he didn't do it.
Almost, yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, we had a good time with that. I remember also really liking the Bloodborne game when we were playing
The card
co-op
game
of that.
last year?
Yeah, I think I want to pick that up.
vaguely-
Oh, I played it. I didn't get a hang of it, and then I was like really upset that I didn't.
Am I the only one that's played the actual game?
No,
I
beat
have it.
Oh,
I beat it. Yeah.
we need to
I
talk
have
about
it
that
too.
later then.
Oh, no, I played it too, like about halfway through.
But I beat it.
Okay. but
Halfway.
I also have the Bloodborne board game.
Did you get to the
Bloodborne?
the twist in Bloodborne?
No.
Not to
yet.
mention DLC is
I didn't play the
Do
DLC.
you know how far is
Yeah.
halfway?
it's the best part of the game.
I got kidnapped and brought to like the
That's
hidden
not
village.
halfway at all.
Well,
How
it
would you know?
depends-
You haven't played it either.
I've seen the whole game through.
Well, the thing is,
Like, you can't say it's halfway if you don't know where the end is.
Well, the thing is, you can
This
get
is
to
a
that part in
VyseTheBold
many
special.
various
Yeah.
parts.
Yeah, everyone's calling him out.
It's a
It was
great
half of halfway.
You're probably right.
It's some number of hours, which does not correlate at all with.
Yeah,
the
it's like
game.
Deus
I
Ex,
meant
the
I
original.
got a
I'm
good
halfway.
ways in. Okay.
All right.
You like to believe?
Just say how long you play the game.
Yeah.
I don't
2
know.
hours?
Yeah.
That's a
Yo,
long
if you got
time.
if you got there
More
in
than
2
that.
hours,
That is something
I
else.
got to that like that lightning bag guy, the
Yeah,
lightning
yeah.
boss.
Carl.
No, actually, him. No, actually, Luminaire, speaking of, like, oh my god, 2 hours, I was watching some Games Done Quick runs before we came to MAGFest, and I saw someone beat Dark Souls, the first one, in, like, an hour and 5
Wait,
minutes.
what?
well, fuck them.
Yeah.
Did they do the?
They use some glitch exploitations. Like, they,
Oh,
like,
okay.
No
Okay.
kidding.
but, like, they
it was tool
they used
assisted.
No, but they didn't go to new locations. Like, they used a bonfire to teleport somewhere, then they forced quit the game, so when they reloaded the game was like, were you back at this other point? And
I'll
yes.
assume you were.
So that it saved them from backtracking is basically the idea.
I actually
Gotcha.
recently
Like, they still
watched
had to ring the bells.
a speed run of Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, which I was looking at.
Yeah.
because
Oh,
and
yeah.
They beat the game in 2 minutes. I was like, this game looks really easy. How could it
It
possibly
still
be
looked hard.
as hard as Vice?
Oh,
is?
getting over it.
Oh, did you actually play that?
Yeah,
No,
I
but I've
have
seen
it so we could play it later.
Oh, I would love to
Yeah.
play that.
Anyway, who was talking?
Minty Mitz was talking for like
Well, I was
10
talking,
seconds.
she was talking about like the coup,
Coup.
and
The P is
Mr.
silent.
Ryu is. I know, I'm aware.
Coup
but
d'etat.
No one took that.
Sorry, 6 other guys will sort of over.
P was silent. Yes.
So about Coup.
No,
We're
we're
talking
really
to
good
you
at interrupting everyone, just like right now.
Indeed. Well, I finally like found a new newer version of like Coup where it's a lot more action rolls actually. Up to like 26 something like that instead of the original 6, and then there was like a new expansion that had 7, but this one had one of the really broken cards where you are the missionary and you like claim to be a missionary.
It's not broken. It's
annoying.
It's annoying.
Yeah.
If you get it constantly.
So typically in Coup, when you start with 2 influence points, and when you lose a challenge or you get targeted by somebody, then you lose one of your influence, and you're out once you lose both influence points.
Yeah,
But
they're like your
have,
HP.
If you have the missionary, then
You're like, I'm the missionary.
You can sacrifice the missionary to not lose an influence point when you otherwise would.
Yeah, the thing is, there's a deck in the center of the table. Like, everybody has their 2 cards, and nobody but them knows what each of their own cards are. So I don't know what my opponent's cards are, I just know what mine are. And in the center of the deck, there's a deck of the leftover cards that have not been dealt out. So there are still some mystery cards in there. So if somebody, for example, plays a certain card, and everybody believes that, you know, I'm the missionary, then presumably there are 2 other missionary cards, either another one owned by me, or perhaps 2 owned by other players, or maybe they're in the deck in the middle, or whatever. But the joke was that the missionary's ability is, she's, like, if anybody would do a thing that would kill a player, except for paying 7 cash to coup them, anything that would otherwise kill them, like calling bullshit and being wrong, or being targeted by cards whose special ability is to kill for less, then you could just say, oh, well, I'm the missionary, so instead of losing a life, I'll just put this card over here, and I'll shuffle the deck and get a new card. So I was able to do that without even lying. I actually had the missionary card.
So it's important to note that when you claim the missionary, you have to set it aside before you draw your new, like, extra life from the deck. So you can't
you don't just put it in and then
the
draw
same
it.
missionary.
Yeah, so, like, there must have been another missionary.
missionary.
There must have been another missionary in the deck, because I kept drawing it. Like, I called the missionary, like, 6 times, and I never lied. And it got to the point where, like, the way I play the game, I'm really reluctant to lie, because I'm always afraid I'll be called out.
Basically never lie.
I basically never lie, because, like, I'm afraid I'll be called out, and I don't want to do something that would get me in trouble, even though that's how you're supposed to play the game. So it's gotten
It's not fun getting in trouble.
Does not gamble outside of punching Dead Space windows.
Yes. So
By the 5th or 6th time, I started drawing his card for him, and
everybody thought I was, like, cheating or something when I was reshuffling.
I
wasn't.
flipped a card up by accident that I was dealing him, and it was also the missionary.
Yeah.
I shuffled it back in the deck, and I dealt him another card, and it was also the missionary.
Yeah, like, it got to the point where, like, everybody at the table knows that I don't lie, but statistically, I gotta be lying the fucking 7th time. Nope. It was
not
amazing.
even
I was
the
kind of
8th
like, I was playing, so not to interrupt the interruptions.
No, that was it.
And the
That was
interruptions.
That's
For
the point.
Christmas, my parents got me this game called Daniel's Game. It's like, they're called games with names. There's one for, like, Dan. My brother Jim got one, too. Mm-hmm. And it's basically bullshit. So, but it doesn't use playing cards. It just uses the numbers 1 through 13. Mm-hmm. And actually, there's a bonus advanced version where 12 and 13, you go, like, 1 through 13, then you go round to 1, but you don't have to go in order. You could say the same number, go up or down. The advanced version is you only go 1 to 11, so you have to lie to get 12 and 13 in there. But how this was awesome was I was playing with a bunch of friends, and he was doing really shitty, so he had a whole bunch of cards. He had all the 8s, which there's 5 of. So at one point he's like 5 8s, and no one called him on that because no one else had any cards.
Yeah.
Then his next time around, he said 5 8s, and no one called him again. And then finally he said 5 8s, and they called him on it, and it was
That
5
was the
8s.
That's great.
This happens a lot in
balls in the
Coup,
sky.
because
Yeah.
one of the roles when you're starting out is, well, it used to be called the Duke in the base game, but there's several variants of it. And the point is that you're trying to accrue money that allows you to take action. It's a banker in the one that we played, or speculator.
We play speculator.
Well, the banker draws 3, the speculator doubles what they have.
So the idea is they're the
That's
roles
fine.
that get you a lot of money really quickly.
Yeah.
So you know there's only 3 in the deck, but a lot of the time, like 4 or 5 people in a large game will all claim to be that character.
Yeah,
Because you
who's
have
the
no way
liar?
of knowing who's lying unless you really have a good read on somebody.
Yeah.
And it's always the person that you call that actually has it.
Of course. It's really great, though, if somebody has, for example, 2 banker cards. So, like, what are the odds odds that the other guy has the third one, you know, so at that point you might be a little more confident in calling.
Water. you
So
waiting
another
for?
another role from this game was the general, whose ability is to pay 5 coins, and they
kill
can cause
everybody.
every other player to lose 1 life, 1 influence,
Wow.
unless they're also a general.
Yeah, the general's immune to
So,
the general.
so someone would claim, I'm the general, I pay 5 coins, and around the table was going, I'm the general, I'm also the general, I'm a missionary, I'm a general.
Yeah, I was legit missionary every time. So every time the general would just smack the whole table, everybody truthfully or BS generaled out, and I missionaried, and
So
they kept calling bullshit on me because it was like round 5.
We have one other friend who plays like Lotus Prince and doesn't lie at all. And
Yeah.
so she was the only one who would consistently have to turn in a card whenever somebody called general. And it was just
Yeah.
so sad that 5 other people would be playing and just like would avoid that losing a life to the general, and she would just like meekly turn a card over.
Nice. Well, let's see here. You also wanted to talk a bit about what you did, Lotus, right?
Why, sure. So I spent a bunch of Saturday at the time of this recording today getting a bunch of cool cosplay photos. I was mainly looking for like particularly creative cosplays. There's a really good one of the girl from The Ring, Samara in the American version, and what was her name? Sadako in
Sadako.
Japanese.
Yeah,
Sadako.
Sadako.
So there's a person who actually hollowed out a CRT TV. And
Oh, wow.
instead
I saw.
yeah,
over
so
here.
and remove the screen and put like a black curtain over it instead, so she can like actually crawl out of the TV. It was really clever.
I'm
Yeah,
freaked
I
out
saw
just by the sound of it.
I actually
I saw
have a small video of her like crawling on her hands, dragging the TV behind her. It's like, oh geez.
Actually, I saw someone like taking a picture with her, and like the guy is like put her like told her to grab his leg while he's like trying to crawl away from her. It was like, wow, that's a pretty good photo.
It really, yeah, that's fantastic.
Fuck
I also got a pretty amusing
We haven't
picture.
even been here 7 days.
I also got an amusing picture of
Quite the conundrum.
basically the problem with this year's MAGFest, not the con itself, but the preparation for it. Getting hotel rooms
Not very
really
organized.
sucked. Yeah, like so like Vice is the only one of our group of like 20 friends who got a
Hey.
hotel room
Okay, Mr.
In the
Popular.
Gaylord.
in the
Gaylord.
Gaylord
in the
Hotel.
Gaylord,
In the
okay.
Gaylord Hotel, sorry.
In my hotel.
Yeah, like so
Every time.
it was really hard to get a room in the hotel where the con actually takes place. So I saw a really clever this costume didn't take too much effort to put together, but it was great. It was a guy in a fisherman's, like a stereotypical fisherman's outfit with the hat and everything, and he had a fishing pole with a sign at the end that said like Gaylord Rooms, and he's just holding over people's heads. Like, I saw
You're gonna have to try harder.
well, no, yeah, he was like, oh, almost got it. Like, it was great.
so good.
You know that's actually where the word trolling comes from. It's a
Really?
it's a fisherman's term, trolling for
Really?
Fish. Yes.
Oh, I had no
I
idea.
didn't
That's what trolling
I've
actually
heard of
is.
trolling for stuff, but I didn't
Yeah.
know it was from fishing specifically.
I had no idea.
Ruined
I
it.
thought it was from the Billy Goat's Gruff.
Yeah.
No.
No, I mean, I've heard of like looking for like trolling for likes. You know, just posting like, hey
Right.
guys, give me some thumbs up. Or
So it's
whatever.
just bait.
It's
Yeah,
literally baiting.
literally
so the guy's
bait.
literally trolling people who didn't
That's
get room
great.
to get
I
get
That's
it.
fantastic. Oh, I also saw a really clever one. It was Pyramid Head from Silent Hill 2,
Yes.
except that the helmet, the triangle, was like the food pyramid, and the great knife was replaced with a large
Like a butter
kitchen
knife?
knife. Not a butter knife, but like a chef's knife.
Nice.
It was really clever.
Food
Also, the
pyramid
food
head.
pyramid head, yeah, that was.
Pyramid.
And also, this is calling back to the aforementioned EA Battlefront disaster, but there was someone who was just in a suit and a tie with the EA logo like over his face, and he's holding a briefcase that has dollar bills like sticking out of it. So he's like this like money hungry EA. It was pretty funny. But previously, the dealer's room I didn't really get too
Previously
much
at
in.
MAGFest.
I got a Smash Brothers Wii U / 3DS soundtrack CDs because I actually still use CDs in the car. I also picked up Golden Sun Dark Dawn for the DS for God knows whenever I finally start the Golden Sun trilogy. But when I do, I'll be ready.
You should play.
You
it.
should
It's
play all the
really
Camelot
good.
games because you won't
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
You
progression.
should play
otherwise-
Beyond the Beyond.
Beyond, Shining in the Darkness.
Oh, no.
Because you wouldn't win.
Yeah, and I also got just a Suikoden 5 strategy guide because just like you have one of these, okay.
That's obscure.
Yeah.
That's what we say about everything.
But that's what I bought anyway. But otherwise, I had my panel technically this morning. It was Friday night into Saturday, so like Saturday at 1 a.m. So you're Friday night ish. So showed off the Resident Evil video, got some Q&A going on afterward. It was pretty rad.
The amount of detail and time it took you was phenomenal. Like you did a really great job. Like it was really well put
It was
together.
actually interesting.
But I still found things to criticize.
Yeah. It was always even before I turned the thing in, I knew there were a couple things like, oh, I wish I would have done this a little differently.
There's a few
No,
things
it was good. I know that. I mean, I know what kind of effort goes into making a video like that.
It was some serious grinding for 2 weeks.
Realizing
at the
that
editing
some of the
dungeon.
way that the video, some of the ways it was because you had to squeeze the entire thing into basically 60 minutes.
Yeah, pretty much. Like when I originally applied for the MAGFest panel, I asked for 60 minutes, and then as I was editing the video, I was like 20, 30 minutes in, and I'm like, there's no way I'm doing this in an hour. So like I asked, like the thing is, when you're scheduling a con, when you have to like line up what panels are where and everything like that, if you have to make a change to the schedule, that's horrible. Like, it's awful, because if you move one person, then lots of people have to move. So, the good news for me was that I was from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the morning, and the thing is, that was the last panel of its time, like, at nighttime, so it actually wasn't a big deal to get it another 30 minutes. And the thing was, though, I had this awkward period where my video was just about an hour long. It was like an hour and 4 minutes. So like an hour would have been too short, but an hour and a half is kind of like gratuitous extra time. So I was like, I don't know, Q&A afterward, anything. So I had to prod a little bit to get some questions at the initial few, but I thought it went pretty well.
Shaving another 4 minutes off that video, it was pretty dense.
Yeah.
And
it was snappy too. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't like.
And there actually was some stuff I did cut out. Like, for example, I was talking about, like, the DS map and how, like, it shows one-to-one movement when you move around on the map. And I actually had a whole other thing about, like, oh, this is like the VMU thing where they showed you your status in Resident Evil 2, and here's some Resident Evil 2 clips. But, like, I recorded that and everything, but as I was editing it, I'm like, it's getting a little off topic.
You were so excited about that map screen.
On the DS?
That was freaking sweet, though.
I find that hilarious because he can't even read maps.
Yeah, right?
That's why he has to keep checking
What
it.
excited about? Can you believe?
Well, no, that's why I was so excited about, like, like, if I ever played Resident Evil DS, it was like how happy I was when I Let's Played Fatal Frame 5, because you have your map, you can have your map on the Wii U tablet at all times. So I'm constantly checking the map without looking like I'm checking the map. So it looks like I had this uncanny sense of direction for one game of all the games I've ever played. This is the one where I know where I'm going. That's because I'm constantly looking at the map. You just can't see me doing it.
Probably played it too many times.
Right.
No, first time play.
Oh,
okay.
It's just that I
Fatal
literally
Frame,
I literally have the map in my lap. And if I were playing the DS, the map's on the top screen at all times, so you can't screw that up.
Also, shout out to the one Corrective Consciousness fan who showed up to the panel.
Yeah.
And said it was nice to
Thank
see
you,
the
loyal
faces.
listener.
Yeah, Kristen actually was at the panel. So, yeah, someone who actually knew who I was at MAGFest at the panel. It was super cool.
In the area,
Yeah.
cross coast.
Yeah. So that was super rad. But anyway, that was largely my MAGFest experience. Otherwise, I just kind of wandered around the arcade, the dealer's room, just kind of looked around, hung out with friends when I could. So, good times.
It's always funny how we're all here and we can barely ever find time to meet up with different
each
groups
other.
of people.
Yeah, we all have our own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which reminds
the
me,
only group thing I did was like
I actually had to
cool.
go get a dinner reservation.
But that was
fair enough.
Yeah. So we'll say goodbye to Pyro for now.
and now you won't hear again from me in like
Yeah,
another
see you in
2
4
months.
weeks. Yeah.
No, 2 weeks. Actually,
weeks?
1 or 2 weeks. Actually,
right.
yeah, next week. I might
Until
come
next
again.
time, Pyro.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
I will be replacing the pirate.
Yeah. Whoa, Luminaire.
So it's an important point. Like, part of what made this MAGFest so tolerable in the wake of the fact that the hotel booking was so much more complicated than it was in previous years was that we got together as a group and we organized pretty well like our trip. So we're staying at the hotel across the way from the Gaylord right now.
Yeah, it's a short walk.
And we got together with some people who took responsibility for buying some food, so that it was easier on us to not have to worry about
forgot
going
to
out
mention
in the
that.
freezing fucking cold.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, chicken and rice was a big thing for Lotus.
No, for real. Like, no, 'cause, like on the Friday, like I got up really late and I was just chilling out in the hotel room for a surprising amount of the day. But yeah, one of the guys who OldManStompy just mentioned, who was one of the people who kind of owned our room, he like had brought rotisserie chicken and rice in case he just wanted to
Rice cooker.
Yeah, rice and rice.
Rice cooker and rice to make the rice.
No, he was eating dry rice. He was crunching on it.
Yeah.
Actually,
so
I kind of ate dry rice.
Oh, for real? But yeah, he just made chicken and rice. So like you get your free meal. You don't have to go pay like $15 at any given restaurant to get a meal. So that like it was a nice thing to do instead of like, oh geez, I just got up, I've been trapped in the hotel, I have to go out and get something to eat right now. Like that wasn't necessary. So that actually was, for a con, that actually is a big deal. Chicken and rice is pretty mundane under normal circumstances, but like at a con, when you just have it with you, like, oh, okay.
But hey, we've been to cons where we normally exit to get food all the time, but it's one thing for it to be 15 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Oh, good lord.
Plus
It's so cold.
10-degree wind chill.
Yeah,
on
with
top of
actual
that.
wind. And our room has a microwave, so guess what? We're golden.
My
It's
skin will crack and
it's
bleed.
also important to note that like when we originally got our hotel booking, it was actually 2 miles away from the Gaylord, and we moved into a hotel which was much closer, which we were hoping people would cancel as the con got closer. But like knowing that was the case, you have to think about your schedule a lot more.
Yeah,
that means you have to think about you can't necessarily like waste a lot of con time doing like ad hoc dinner reservations. It helps a lot to have a plan, and we had a group.
Actually, last minute, like a friend of mine actually was asking if people needed like a room because I think some people of theirs like flaked out. Like
yeah, no, it was getting to the point where I was talking to OldManStompy on Facebook. I was asking him like a ballpark figure for when he was coming to pick me up because he's from an hour, 50, 60 minutes north of me. He was going to pick me up, and we were talking about getting ready to do that when Mr. Ryu calls me on the phone, hey, there's an extremely close hotel room, are you interested? Like, yes. So, like, all of a sudden, instead of OldManStompy going out to get me, like, we spent a good another 30, 40 minutes discussing the logistics of getting people to move into that room, and it was totally worth it.
yeah.
So being flexible was very important for this con.
Yeah, because otherwise, if you're that far away, you drive to MAGFest, you better spend the whole damn day at MAGFest because you're not driving back and forth multiple times in one day, and then you drive back. So, like, at this point, I still haven't really gone back to the room except for when I'm done because I don't feel like dealing with freezing cold for even small periods of time, but I could if I really wanted to. Like, I could just... I can't just walk to the elevator and go to my room. I'd have to cross the street, but crossing the street isn't that big of a deal.
Well, yeah, in comparison, this is the first time I've not been in the Gaylord, and I've had to take shuttles and Uber for the first time ever to get back and forth between. And I mean, like, do I tip? I don't know Uber. And it's just like, this is the first time you take Uber? Get out of here. He was a good guy. Gave 9,000 rides. Gave him a 5-star.
Yeah. Well, no, I saw on MAGFest Twitter page they were pimping out like a particular Lyft service because like that was a thing that was going to be necessary now. The MAGFest, the Gaylord Hotel booked out like immediately, and all the immediate hotels also were just gone.
It was within 8 minutes, like of the opening of the.
So it should be said that like we booked a room for one night in the Gaylord as we were driving down to the hotel,
which was a good thing.
Yeah, in the car, like I was in the passenger seat, like. If we're gonna be at the Hampton, could we get a Gaylord room, like our Hampton or Gaylord, whatever? Just like so we drove off, we dropped off a person who was actually staying at the Gaylord, and then we just walked to the front desk. One room for tonight. Slept. Right. Got up the next morning, checked out, crossed the street.
And they did have openings for the entire weekend, but they were very expensive.
Yeah, it was no longer at the con rate. So. On one hand, I would prefer to be in the one hotel the whole time, but on the other hand, I'll cross the damn street a couple times and save like $200.
Yeah.
It was literally like, so some of the hotels around here were charging over $400 a night for the hotel.
Yeah, that's the one hotel that I think, the one hotel within walking distance that was not fully booked because, like, I'm not paying fucking $400 for the Saturday night. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
yeah. And, Mr. Ryu, you also were in a contest, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I guess I'll talk about like my MAGFest.
Yeah.
So today I entered one of the console attendee-run console tournaments. It's like for Hatsune Miku Project Diva Future Tone, which is like the arcade.
It's the newest one, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like new. It's just like the arcade, like home version of the arcade game. I was running the tournament, and I actually managed to get first.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah.
sweet.
Well done.
I got a little nifty.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
What is it in Japanese? What do they say?
Oh, I don't know.
I guess.
With barely any animation.
To all the children of the world, congratulations. End of series. What?
It was an ending so good they had to remake it twice after that.
So yeah, I won that tournament. And I got this nifty like acrylic trophy thing. I guess
It's the color of Miku's hair.
It is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
You're
Miku
right.
colors.
You're right.
Did they give you any prize?
Yeah, they gave me $7 mag, so I won $7.
Oh, nice. There you go.
I guess.
So that's good for the dealers.
But
right?
the best thing about it is that I actually met a Miku bro who actually went to Magical Mirai, which is like the big yearly Japanese like Miku concert that happens around like August or September. And we had like a good long chat and about like how awesome it was and being just Miku bros. So
Nice.
Was that the guy at the table for Coup?
No, that was not that guy. It was. This is a completely new guy that I've never met before, and surprisingly, he's the one guy who who actually has all the high scores in the Exton round 1 Project Diva machine.
Jeez.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, "Oh my god, that's you!"
I'm your biggest fan.
And then he's like, "Oh wait, hold on, so you're Mr. Ryu. You're Mr. Ryu on the on the
That's
score."
fantastic.
I was like,
You're
"Oh my
Mr.
god!"
Not number 1.
Yeah. You're that guy who's below me on the board.
But needless to say, like he is better than me. But like,
You're the only other guy that's not ass and or poo.
Yeah.
Or God.
Yeah. Or AAA.
So anyway, the only reason I really won that was because like everyone else didn't really know how wasn't really that good. So I was like, "Oh, sweet! I won."
Well, obviously, they weren't.
I mean,
that
next
good.
to me, let's be realistic.
Yeah, come on. I mean, I admit I wasn't. I'm not that good either. But like,
It was a small pond.
By comparison, of course, literally the best DDR player in the world is here, so I have no hope of ever winning the DDR tournament.
But yeah, that's cool that you in your game that you got to win.
Yeah.
So, that's always cool.
The living legend.
It was like when you won Street Fighter, I think it was 5, like last year.
No, that's not last year. That was when it first came out.
2 years ago, maybe.
And then that's also when everyone else was not that good.
Oh yeah, it was still cool though,
Yeah,
because
but-
you're a Street Fighter super fan.
Yeah, and then like season 2 happened, and Ryu was like one of the worst characters in the game. That
Yeah,
game
that's
sucks.
Yeah,
That does
Mr.
not
Ryu
compute.
is surprised. He likes playing as Ryu.
Yeah, like so all the pro Ryu players dropped Ryu. Wow.
That's pretty bad.
Mr. Ryu, I'm a bison name.
I like playing him in Street Fighter 2010.
Mr.
Yeah.
Ryu, mains Ryu in Street Fighter, in Smash Brothers, in Grand Blue Fantasy, and
That's what he does. He actually does in Smash Bros.
Broken in Smash.
Yeah.
He's not broken. He's just
Well, I can't beat you.
Richard Bergen.
Don't want to broken.
Yes, I would like some
Bart
burgers.
McNugan.
Anyways, yeah. Well, I've already talked about it, so like some previous podcasts. So no.
So, with having said that, does anybody want to have some last minute remarks before we move on to the?
I have one short story.
Okay, great.
Which actually happened a little bit before we came to this podcast. I was kind of wandering around the con earlier today, and they were hosting a panel about the psychological impact of violence in video games. And they had,
Oh, wow.
I heard about that one.
They had contracted 5 PhD, one professor and 4 PhD students in media psychology.
Nice.
To come out
Cool.
and talk about to analyze the studies which have been misrepresented oftentimes in the media regarding the impact of violent imagery in video games. So I thought the panel was really interesting in terms of teaching like people who were interested how to interpret scientific journalism. So that was useful by itself. They showed a couple of really interesting things. One was they were trying to the biggest thing was they were trying to produce a study that normalized the impact of violent video games against other forms of media. Because I think like we can assume that yes, actually, if you play a lot of Grand Theft Auto, play a lot of Call of Duty, play a lot of violent games, yes, it does desensitize you to some extent
Yeah.
to violence. It does have some impact on your behavior. Like, no one's arguing that. But is it worse than what we already see every day in movies or in the news or in art. Because a lot of stuff that you see in art galleries,
you watch like
is,
Saw,
really fucking violent.
Even religion has tons of violence.
Sure, exactly.
And
So
real quick, just like desensitization to violence in media as opposed to violence in real life.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily make you want to.
Which is
commit
something
violence.
that they never actually cross-reference.
Well,
but go ahead.
It doesn't take into account the social aspect. Like a lot of people don't commit violent acts because it's socially reprehensible.
So that was an axis of the study, that they consider that when people rate how horrible they think violence is and how desensitized they are to it, part of it is what's called proximity, which is like how close the victim is to you. So, like, it can make you less sensitive to it, but so you wouldn't necessarily be more prone to violence, but you might be less sympathetic, for example, to a victim of violence that you don't know.
Sure.
Okay.
So that's one possible outcome. So one sort of remarkable thing, I don't want this to really be the takeaway, but it certainly was like the most exciting part of the presentation, was that they showed like a collage of violent images from other forms of media that they had actually like plucked from real broadcasts, real movies, real art galleries. And the guy, and it was really clear, the 5 people who comprised the panel in the presentation like really didn't review each other's portions of the presentations. The guy responsible for news, he literally had like a shot of some guy's testicles nailed to a street. And he was like describing the images, and like the audience was like staring at the panel, like the slide on the presentation, trying to like parse what this image was, and you could
Holy
see like
shit.
everybody freaking out as the other 4 panels were like, this was not in the final draft that I saw. And so someone actually stood up and were like, so everybody here is over 17, right? Like, it's not the testicles that bothers me, okay?
Wow.
It's the nail.
Yeah, exactly.
So they skipped past that, and then
That is
someone
the
like fucked up the
hypocrisy.
slideshow button, and they went back to the testicles.
That's amazing.
Not to the kindergarten.
So after that, they showed a chart of like so it basically expressed these axes of how people sort of parse violence, and how like, one of them is proximity, one of them is whether or not they think the person is deserving, one of them is likeness. So of course you think that someone who isn't like you tends to be you're less sensitive to someone who's a victim of violence if they're not,
Or in the
they will
Middle
not
East.
Yeah.
And I also might add that like if it happens to like a cartoon character, which is video games, like nobody looks real enough in video games.
Yeah.
Realism is part of it. Yeah.
Actually, here's the thing though that I'm wondering, because this doesn't fall into, I don't think, any of the categories you described. But the nail in the testicles one, like, you just
saying it.
No, you just. Like, that's a particular kind of violence that you just don't see. If they had shown an actual person's head being blown off, that's gross, and people might look away, but it wouldn't be like, what the hell?
Well, yeah,
Like,
so gruesomeness is also, there were 5
But like,
Real violence,
but also just
is
stuff
fun.
you're not used to, though,
Right.
like shooting someone in the head. Like, oh, I've seen that in games 1,000 times. But
course,
like,
part-
a
it's
shot
like-
through the ankle, though, it's just like, ooh.
So
you
a
know,
lot of it is just different ways of saying, like, can you contextualize what's going on right now, and how hard
Yeah.
does your brain have to work to produce a mental shortcut for you to handle, like, the negative emotion that you feel when you process this image?
Look,
Well, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
one thing that I might add is that if you know something's real versus something that is staged or a special effect, you also have a bigger reaction to it. Like, for instance, I've seen many like dismemberments in like horror movies and things like that. However, when I watched the footage of Joe Theismann breaking his leg
that's
in
awful.
probably the most graphic sports injury in mainstream football, and one of the most tragic because it ended his career. One of the best football players of all time. Like, when I watch that, it's just a leg breaking, and it's like in comparison, like, so it's not a decapitation.
leg breakings are often completely bloodless.
Yeah.
But you just don't see that
But
happen. It's
it's
gross.
awful. I cringe, and and rightfully so. It's actual violence.
Don't
right?
watch skateboarding.
Yeah.
This was,
Violence.
this was something of the conclusion the study reached, in that they asked people to sort of rate violence they observed based on the category, like the type of violence, and the media that it was presented in. And they showed that, for the most part, people think that a given act, whatever the given act is, and they had a list of like all kinds of rating from like ranging from literally like a sports opponent holding the ball and getting tackled was like the lowest rated thing by most of the respondents to this study as like the least horrible, but still an act of violence. Like football is very violent.
Yeah, but it's also controlled to some degree.
Of course. Yeah. And it's all by like consenting adults, many of whom are being paid hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to participate. So
they knew what they're getting into.
Mostly. Well, it's more complicated than that, but for the purpose of this discussion, that's with very few exceptions, the news portrayal of all of these acts was rated as the most violent, followed by movies, and then video games, with like a couple of really oddball exceptions that they couldn't really parse in the context of the study, one of which was shooting a deer with an arrow. For some reason, people really hate doing that in video games, but they don't seem to mind it very much if they see it on the news, because there are plenty of hunting shows and television. Maybe
it's a reality. It's like like a cow getting
sure, but
it's an interesting psychological thing. Is that they're worried that the video game depiction promotes killing of deer, whereas there's some sort of acceptance that hunting deer is already commonplace to a degree. Yeah, right. So they're worried about more hunting of deer. It's weird.
But I mean, like, part of it's the portrayal. Like, I remember one complaint. This is deviating a little bit, but I remember like one complaint about video games from like it's not really a contemporary one.
Yeah, I shot bomb arrows at deers in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, whatever, man. But no, but
you're killing animals all the time.
Yeah, but one complaint about video games I remember from before is simply the depiction of the thing happening. Like, so they would talk like. They would talk about, like, you know, the big villain of this game and all the horrible stuff he does. And I'm like, he's the fucking bad guy. Like, my job is to take him down.
Is the moral of the story that what that character did was reprehensible or wrong?
Yeah, that's the point. Like, it's supposed to be bad. Like, I know, I'm the hero.
So I have two comments I would like to make about that before we move on.
And we have a question coming up.
Exactly, yeah. Maybe that's a good interim, or...
No, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, so the first thing was that, like, in the 90s when the Columbine shootings and things were happening, that a lot of, like, all these people that were doing the shootings, like, they did happen to play violent video games, but what was ignored was that nationwide violent crime was down overall, as well as exposure for the young to violent video games was expanding astronomically.
Yeah, well, so you do psychological and sociology stuff, right?
Sociology, yes.
Do you know Steven Pinker?
Familiarize me.
Well, I mean, he's just a guy who talks about this kind of stuff. I was just going to mention that, video game, like, since the advent of video games, violence is, and maybe not because of them, but violence has been going down since the 90s.
Yes, so, 80s, when it was 80s. Real particularly bad.
The 80s was when violence was, like, at the worst.
Yeah,
that's why you had movies like Death Wish and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So a lot of the news channels were trying to say, like, all these violent shooters played violent video games, but what was ignored was that
tons of other people
more than ever, the youth were exposed to violent video games, so it was sort of normalized. And so if you checked for statistical significance, it was very downplayed.
If video games really did promote violence, look at how many people play Call of Duty. We should all be dead right now.
No, it should be going up. But let's not even get to access to guns. And then the only other thing was... shit, it eludes me at the moment.
I think violent crimes in general have gone down. I mean, the mass shootings and things like that have gone up.
Everyone's too busy playing their games.
But violent crimes such as, like,
that's actually part of it.
Such as, like, robberies and things like that have actually gone down.
Yeah.
Like routine violent acts. You would say. There's a lot more one-offs.
Yeah.
But the everyday kind of stuff has gone down.
I can't remember the other point, but...
muggings and things like that.
I will conclude that, like, part of the point of this panel was to express that a lot of the furor over violent video games comes from a poor representation of the studies that have already been done with regards to scientific journalism. A lot of it is very sensationalist. But it's important to note that, like, so... There are plenty of people who try to produce games that have a positive effect on people. One example that we've recently done in a Let's Play is Undertale, which promotes inclusivity and the power of your actions having consequences. And you can't say that it doesn't have an effect on at least some people. So if you believe that a game can have a positive effect on making people feel good, you have to believe the opposite is also true, that it can inspire violence in people. But the nuance of that still has to be unfolded.
I remember what I was going to get to now. On that, I remember in that video games were someone depicted as the flavor of the week, in that before that it was rap music, before that it
Basically
was...
anything old people don't understand.
Well, no, that's literally what it is. Comic books are going to make you so violent.
Yes, comic
TV,
books.
are you watching snuff films now? Oh, back in my day, we watched TV. No, now you're interacting with it. Oh, it's so horrible.
It's
not to mention...
basically anything that can invigorate the major voting base.
Which is really just ironic, because...
So I don't want to say that's only the case here, because like it's largely about...
Well, the previous generation doesn't like what it's not familiar with.
Because we see the same dynamic being played out when... So imagine you're watching a political debate or talking to like your racist aunt or whatever, and she blames everything on illegal immigrants. Now go to the internet and look at like people who are talking about modern game design and how often they blame things on the casuals.
Yeah,
they just want a box that isn't them to blame things on.
No, that was the irony, in that people's there was an inverse correlation between actual violence and people's perception of how much violence is being portrayed because of exposure. And the amount of violence depicted from 90s going forward is that, look at these people committing violence, when statistically it is documented that it is going down. However, and same thing with terrorism, after 2000, after 9/11,
well, part of the problem is the advent of the internet. Like, we are the internet generation.
Well, it eventually got to that point, but it was
but
news.
What I mean by this is that because we have the internet, you can look up every single crime that ever happens, whereas before that, you would look up every single crime that happens in your town, which might be 0 for today.
Exposure versus...
so now, like, look what's happening
from around the country.
Look what's happening all over the U.S. Look what's happening all over the world. But it's like... But if you really think about it, for all you know, that's it. And most things are great.
There was a paper that showed that the number of school shootings had actually not substantially increased. Like, some of the number of casualties might have increased in a couple of limited instances, but the actual number of like school shooting events or like high violence school events did not increase following Columbine. Maybe
it's because of access to guns with automatic rounds as opposed to manual shots. But final thing before I move on, I remember somebody said in one of my classes about the worry about violent video games and crime, and I said that I thought video games could be used as an assessment tool, because it's a way of so the main thing is that people that can't with delirium that can't, or delusions that cannot tell the difference between reality and fiction, which is the main culprit. And, you may have heard the occasional story of someone read Superman, they thought they could fly, etc. So it's like, comic books
are bad.
It's like the Fantastic Four cartoon where they had to take out Johnny Storm because they were afraid kids would light themselves on fire.
So it's like they're using it to, like, that's the cause, or it's like, no, it could be an assessment tool in that the comic book gave someone with the inability to discriminate between reality and fiction to test themselves to try to fly. And because video games are so much more prolific than comic books were at the point, they think that they're reversing the cause and effect. So I say, if you just maybe gave an evaluation or questionnaire to children, it's like, so what do you think would happen if you shot a real person as opposed to this, and they can't...
I would get a 5-star rating, and people would chase me with tanks.
Which is actually fairly close to what would really happen.
Yeah. No, but like
fair enough.
But the real irony here, though, is the people who decry the video games the most, of course they know the difference.
They're looking for attention.
No. Of course they know the difference between fantasy and reality, but they often conflate it anyway, because look at all these horrible things that are happening in video games. So it's like, I'm holding a controller in my hand. I can tell it's on a TV screen.
It's a certain group of people that want to be able to say it's people that fear chaos, and they want to be able to pin it on something that can actually limit it. Whether it's true or not, it makes them feel better that they have an answer.
But it just comes off to me that they're like, oh, what about the poor people who can't tell the difference between fantasy and reality, while they themselves are intentionally conflating the two.
And again,
It's like, wait a
my
minute.
hypothesis is that it can be used as an assessment tool, not as something that influences. Because if it's not video games, it'll be something else that
it
can...
always will be. It has been, and it will be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this is a really great topic, and I would love to do a recon on it.
I'm going to do a thesis on this, actually.
Well, let's do a recon on it in the future. Absolutely, especially with you, Luminaire, because this is your
jam.
Your jam. But we would love to have you on there to do a recon about this. But
yes, Pulse.
We a little out of the scope here. We'll continue moving on here to a question here.
Question.
Yeah. And this one's from Facaphon. Never gotten one from Facaphon before.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Pronounced fuck-a-phone.
Fuck-a-phone.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
If you could go back to a game you played, but play as the bad
yeah.
guy instead of the protagonist, which game would you choose?
That's
I knew
interesting.
immediately, actually.
Really?
No, yeah. As soon as I thought about it. Maybe it's only because it's my favorite game of all time, Chrono Trigger. But I would go as Magus or Magus.
I was going to say Giant Slug Lavos.
Yeah, but you can be Magus.
But only because he's portrayed as a villain for the first half of the game or so. Oh, spoiler alert!
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on, get out of here.
Anyway,
Spoiler: Lincoln dies.
which I actually found was funny, and I didn't know he was even a recruitable. I didn't know that you could not recruit him because pure chance. When it's just like, do you forgive him? Yeah, I'll forgive you. I join your crew. What?
Yeah.
So I
Actually, when I ran through the game, I actually didn't know you could recruit him because I actually
the first
beat
time
him.
I did this too, I killed Magus. I was like,
I
that
beat him.
fucking guy, I hate
But-
him so much.
but you need to do both anyway to get the endings and
endings.
stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just like, oh shit, he joins. That's awesome. Anyway, but then it becomes a really awesome anti-hero after that
Yeah.
point. And so I'm particularly curious in terms of all the stuff he did in the interim, in terms of
what
growing
could have
up from when he got when he was Shala's younger brother to when he got sent to the
Future.
to the Middle Ages from the
Time travel is confusing.
Yeah.
Yes. And his time with Ozzy and the other knights in the Middle Ages, he remains an interesting character, and just who would want to play the Chrono Trigger system again, but from Magus's
That'd be
or
clever.
Yanis, majority of the characters actually had double names. So that was the first thought that came to my mind. Of course, if I give it more thought, I could think of a few others, but who else?
I have a pretty fun answer. Basically, any bad guy and any shmup. Like any boss, because they could just get
100 bullets,
get hurt, and also get more powerful.
Yeah.
I played Mushihime-sama here.
But they have,
we
a
need to
huge
play that.
fucking hitbox. That doesn't really work very well in a shmup.
Yes.
And you have this glowing weak point. I don't know.
and parts that fall off.
Nah, and a shmup, the whole body's the weak point. Well, it depends. But anyway,
But anyway, the major one that I wanted to do is my favorite game is Gunstar Heroes, and I would love to be Green, who has the 7 Force, who he has a transforming power that basically imitates different animals, or different objects. So there's a crab, there's a walker, there's
Nice.
there's a buzzsaw, there's a gun. There's 7 different forms he has. And it would be a really cool game to utilize those 7 forms for various situations. Could you imagine a Metroidvania or some kind of adventure game where you have to utilize those 7 forms?
Yeah.
It would be really neat. So I that's my pick.
For me, it's a tough one. I don't know if this would necessarily be my final answer, but I'll throw this one out. Even though in canon, he's generally the goofy, miserable failure of a boss, the ability to play as him where you control what happens would be different. Just probably the Genesis trilogy, Robotnik, because he just has these crazy, completely different
Yeah.
the
things
part
every
where he's
time.
actually capturing all the animals in the first place that turn to robots.
But also his boss forms are radically different every single time. And when he finally beat him, he always has that apparently indestructible paw that he just flies
So there's
away.
actually like a crafting system where you make
I'll take it.
the trombone bugle or the.
And if you're playing Sega CD Robotnik, then your boss theme is actually scary. Yeah.
That is a very fascinating concept.
Doom, 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 doom. Like that theme is amazing. Or maybe I'm thinking the Saturn 3D Blast, but whatever. Robotnik's creepy in
Mr.
Sega CD and
Ryu?
Sega Saturn.
The thing is
Is there an anti-Miku? I don't
Sure
know.
is.
How about a game where you play as M. Bison?
That's what I was about to
You
say.
mean Street
like,
Fighter?
I can already play as the bad guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you mean Street Fighter?
and yes, in Black Rock Shooter, the Hatsune Miku game, there is like a White Rock Shooter who's the villain.
Nice.
Yes.
It's like the anti-Miku.
Anyway, Dozo.
Honestly,
Play as Majima all the time. Yes.
That would be sweet.
That would be,
guy.
actually, playing as Ryuji would be freaking incredible.
Actually, you know what? That's gonna be my answer. Ryuji.
Ryuji from
Play you can play as Chaos from Final Fantasy.
How about if I can play Shadow the Hedgehog? Because Chaos control.
There's the
Oh,
whole
wait,
game.
you can already do that.
This
Yeah,
is
where
who I
his
am.
Guns. Where he has guns and vehicles, and he's a badass.
Pro
And he
Jared said-
literally shoots Robotnik in one of his endings.
As Pro said, how do you confuse these two hedgehogs? They're nothing alike.
Well, it's like Super Mario Sunshine. Like, did you really think that water blue paintbrush Mario was Mario?
No, I didn't get either.
Did Bowser Jr. really think Peach was his mom?
I guess so.
He
Anyway,
looks just like her.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Did you beat the game?
Yes.
Because he knows he wasn't.
I know. It's just a plot point.
He was
for
just
a really long
humoring
time.
his depressing dad.
would like to be, what's the opposite? Electra Complex?
How about you, Old Man Stompy?
I'm gonna vote for
Okay.
the Suikoden series because I'll be honest, like oftentimes in the game you do play as like someone from one of the antagonizing kingdoms in the sequels,
Oh,
but it
nice.
had like an overarching big bad in like the Kingdom of Harmonia that you never really get to explore except in like the guiding games, and you never get to like play as any of the characters unless they're like visiting basically from another game.
Sure.
And they're supposed to be like what seemed to be set up as like the big bad of the entire series. And since, you know, fuck Konami and everything, we'll probably never see that.
Yeah.
So I would love to play as them. Like their lore is really interesting.
Speaking of Konami, play as Pyramid Head. Just stare at James and don't actually do anything.
And then they just like
Easy
rape other
mode.
monsters.
Yeah, half-heartedly take a swing at James, then leave. What is this game? Then kill yourself at the end.
Oh, you
What?
know what just came to my mind? What would have been my answer, except they did do a while ago? Devil May Cry 3, where you
We
get to
play
play as Virgil?
I was actually thinking that because one thing that always fascinated me. This isn't the Robotnik thing.
Wait,
but,
is that Devil May Cry 3 featuring Dante from
Yeah.
Devil May Cry?
So no.
Devil May Cry 2.
But what was
Sonic and
always
Knuckles,
but one thing I do like though is the rival who's not the final boss who you fight and they run away like Gilgamesh from FF5 or whatever, like that guy who's always like, I'm back this time but better. Like those guys are cool.
Well, no,
like Virgil as Nello Angelo in DMC1.
No, that just, I'm like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. And then, like, 10 years after DMC4 came out, they did the special edition where you can play as Virgil, Trish, and Lady
That's ridiculous.
through the whole game. I'm like,
Lady!
I'm like, this is a love letter to.
That's
I'm like, I get to
fantastic.
play, and it's the same voice actor. Like,
Actually, now that I think about it, playing as like I'm thinking Capcom, playing as Wesker in Resident Evil, any of them would be actually kind of amazing.
the whole reason I got Ultimate Marvel's Capcom 3 was because Virgil was in it.
Yeah.
Now
Playing-
I'm motivated.
Playing as Wesker in Code Veronica,
He's also
like whoa, just running through with his Matrix powers.
I would like to play as
Vice, did
as
you have an
arrow
answer
in
yet?
DDR.
I already
As
said
who?
mine.
Oh, it's an arrow.
But Minty Mitz.
Oh, wait, hold
my
on.
mortal nemesis.
And yeah, whenever the good guy comes by, you have like miss or like oh so close.
Like, miss.
Damn you!
Oh,
Yeah.
Mint, you're still here.
What's that? Only a double A? What a scrub!
What's your Aunt's W-er?
My answer?
Yeah.
It would be, I would probably be Nook from Animal Crossing.
Oh my
Tom
god,
Nook.
that's
my
actually
God.
pretty good.
That's secretly
called Dream City.
That's diabolical.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
give you out loans, pay me back, bitches.
The funny thing is that
Shake people down.
The
You
fu-
want a bigger house? Okay.
You just have like a
Warlords.
baseball bat in your corner, and every time you click A in it, it's like maybe next time.
No. That's what I'm thinking though. Like,
quota this
if you
month.
play as Tom Nook, you're playing as any low-level Yakuza thug. Like, oh, you paid me back the 1,000 yen you owed. Too bad with interest, it's like 10 million yen.
Take all the time you need to pay me back.
Yeah, it's like get the hell out of here.
You have to remind.
I don't have to beat you up to remind you
save
of
your
that.
game.
There's actually a really fascinating
Don't forget
narrative
to
by
pay the
Yoko
bills.
Taro, the director of Nier and the Drakengard games, about how like the fucking Animal Crossing Pocket Camp is a cabal. He's
Yeah, I
like,
heard about
I moved
that.
into this
a
town.
cabal?
They made me buy a house. I don't even want a house.
That's great.
They elected me
I've seen
mayor of
how
this
you
town.
run things in this village,
That's
Okay.
fantastic.
in this crossing.
I just want to change my answer really quick. I just want to be a monster and Monster Hunter and just
I was-
troll the crap out of all launchers.
Yeah, the moment Mitch said Tom Nook, I was like, duh, the final boss of Monster Hunter.
I would be Cinder, Lord of Gwyn.
You should play as Jen Moran. We're just a big thing in the
No,
sand
that's
ocean.
not troll enough. I should play as like Freedom Unite, like Plesiath, where like the hitbox for like this one move is, it's like it became like pretty much like a giant meme for every Monster Hunter player.
I
You
would
should
play
play as the
as
Jay Leno monster.
I would play as the zombies from Left 4 Dead. Oh wait.
Yeah.
I would want to play as the end from Metal Gear Solid 3. If I take too long, I die.
I want to play as the G-Man from Half-Life 2, where whenever the player sees me, I just walk around a corner.
You just want
And I'm
the
just gone.
scene to see.
And you never find out what my deal is.
And you never will. God damn it.
I think we've lingered on with this topic.
Yeah.
Question.
So we should wrap things up for this week. I should also say that we have no recon. So we this week because of the special.
MAGFest is the recon.
Yeah, I mean
I'm
this is
the recon.
we
It's
did
the
what
con.
we did what we went over what we did this week, and we had an extra long episode here, but with everybody here. But I want to thank everybody here. That's the show for this week. We want to thank Fakafon for our
Singular question.
we wanted to thank him for his question, and please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own on the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can normally catch us on Thursdays on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness. You'll catch us there next week. The in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as VyseTheBold, VyseTheBold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Battle.net, and assorted things.
Assorted things. You can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, or even selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And I'm Mr. Rio. Don't bother looking for me because I am a jerk.
I know where you live.
Oh no!
Yeah.
And you can find me as OldManStompy on most major gaming social media networks, except for Steam, where my name is I Like Dubstat GG Noob. That's noob with 1 O and 1 0.
Alright. XX Super Saiyan Gogeta XX.
That was mine. Actually, for a while, mine
That
was
is-
like XX Hatsune Miku Boy 39.
That is explicitly particular.
That's exceptionally cultured.
Yeah.
And this is Minty Mitz. You can find me floating around at Final Fantasy 14 server somewhere around. Crafting.
Ultros. She's
Ultros.
crafting and giving all of her good stuff to her retainer.
And if you want to see YouTube content that hasn't been updated in 4 years, I have the Luminaire show on YouTube.
All right, and
Nothing
PyroJackFrost is PyroJackFrost
Who cares about him?
loud
He left, he doesn't get a say.
0851
08540.
08540. Excuse me.
309.
On anywhere where he
5A
wishes
is
to
12.
be found. All right, guys, we will catch you next Tuesday on Corrective.
Until next time, everyone.
See ya.
For him, it was Tuesday.